Hello everyone and welcome to the very first session of our newly formed Falkirk Apple Regional Training Centre. Now this session is on getting started with Apple Teacher. And over the next hour we're going to take a little look at what the Apple Teacher Learning Centre actually is. We're going to dive into a practical demonstration on some of the sort of functionality of the core apps which you would learn about doing your first Apple Teacher badge, which is simply called iPad. Now, we're going to do this in a way that is contextualised as you expect, from a teacher's perspective, but this might also give you some ideas for making use of these features in the classroom with your students as well, whenever that day might come, and might be really useful for thinking about the one-to-one environment that many of us are going to be working in the future. So before we jump in, just a few introductions. My name is Kerry Abercrombie. I am your host for today's session. I'm an English and media teacher, member of the Connected Falkirk Sprint team and an Apple Professional Learning Specialist. Our facilitator for today is Mary Jane Patterson. She is a primary specialist, Connected Falkirk Sprint team member and is also an Apple Professional Learning Specialist. We've also got Gav and Andy from the team on the call today and they'll be helping out in the chat. So please, if you do have any comments or questions throughout the duration of the session, just don't hesitate to fire them into that chat and someone will get to them there. So, as I've already said, this session really is about getting started with Apple Teacher and how you can use it to support you in the classroom. And I'm just going to quickly introduce some of the apps that we're going to be using today. So, throughout the session we'll touch on various apps and the functionality of them, but predominantly Mary Jane will be looking at notes. She'll take a little look at the voice memos and we'll take a little tour around reminders as well. Now, the apps that we're using on today's session are all apps that come built into your device. Now, some people might not use these apps. They might not even actually think about using them because of the ready availability of the hundreds of thousands of other apps for iPad. And those apps do fantastic things and they really do make having an iPad a really powerful tool. But getting wrapped up in that app culture, we do sometimes sort of almost miss the really powerful apps that are baked into our device. Now, these core apps that Mary Jane's going to show you today, they don't require any setup, any kind of login, and they often actually don't require Wi-Fi either, which is quite good. One of the best things that I found out during my Apple Teacher was just how easy and usefully compatible these apps actually are, and more importantly, how intuitively they work well together a lot of the time. So, a brief agenda. I'm going to give you a quick tour of the Apple Teacher Learning Centre, and then we'll hand over to Mary Jane, who's going to explore the tools and skills related to the iPad badge. And then I'll pop back on at the end and tell you exactly how you can go ahead and officially earn that first badge. So, let's head to the Apple Teacher Learning Centre. Now, you can follow along and do this if you like, or you can just hold off, sit back and relax and watch along. As I say, the video will be on YouTube for you to watch later on. But we get to the Apple Teacher Learning Centre by going to any web browser and going to appleteacher.apple.com, and Andy will pop the link in the chat just now. And then you're faced with a login screen, and this is the most important thing that I've got to tell you today from my bit, and that is that this login screen will not accept your connected Falkirk Apple ID. You must use a personal Apple ID, and that is because Apple Teacher accreditation is personal to you. And the accreditation you receive will follow you from school to school or local authority to local authority, whereas your managed Apple ID from Connected Falkirk kind of belongs to Falkirk Council, if you will. So Andy's going to just pop a link in the chat just now where you can create an Apple ID, a personal one. It's free and it means that your accreditation will be with you for all the rest of time. So that's in there if you don't already have one. Now, once you log into the Apple Teacher Learning Centre, you will see that there is lots and lots and lots to do. It's a place to go for some really high quality professional development ideas around using Apple technology in the classroom. And I don't know if you can see here, but just at the very bottom, there's a little Explore More section. And that's got nothing to do with Apple Teacher, but it's got lots and lots of additional resources around things like augmented reality, coding, creativity, etc., etc. So it is worth having a wee root around and a wee look to see what they've got there, because there's lots of fantastic resources that are available for free to download that you can use with various different learners or classes. So, getting started with Apple Teacher, which is what we're here to talk about, is super, super easy. So I've kind of stolen these steps actually from the Becoming an Apple Teacher page. So number one, you choose a path by selecting the iPad collection on the home screen. There are Mac badges available, but the iPad ones are the ones that are obviously most pertinent to us. Number two, we learn new skills by exploring the resources. And finally, we take a quiz and earn the badge. And you do need all 6 badges for iPad in order to gain that Apple Teacher accreditation. So today we are looking at the badge that is simply called iPad, and it's the very, very first one in the iPad path. And you can see here the sort of skills or areas, I guess, that we have to look at in order to gain that badge. And when we've looked through all of the resources, we would simply tap on Earn Badge, complete the little 5-question quiz, and that quiz is made up of items drawn from all of the areas above. And it just kind of generates 5 questions, paste those, you answer the questions, and then you earn the badge. Now, the Apple Teacher programme is self-guided. It's quite a supportive programme. It allows you to go at your own pace, so it really suits anybody. I know people who have done Apple Teacher in an in-service day, maybe like today, or a day off. I've seen people who have done it over a course of weeks. I've seen people who have taken a lot longer to do it. It's really whatever suits you and what's best for you. So you can see we've got quite a lot to get through, to try and get through today, to prepare you to be able to take that quiz and get that badge. That's the aim today. We want to give you enough information that you'll be able to log into the Apple Teacher Learning Centre and take that first badge. So Mary Jane's going to take you through notes and the tools within there. She's going to take a look at the control centre. Hang on just a wee second. I seem to have jumped off. So she's going to take a look through the control centre and the home screen. She's going to have a little look at screen recording and screenshots and a very quick look at Siri and voice memos. She'll also then look at Safari and then a little bit about the clock and maps apps at the end. Unfortunately, sorry, you can't see that screen just now, but we do have quite a lot to get through. Once she's done all that, at the end of the session, you'll be able to go into the Apple Teacher Learning Centre and take that badge. So full disclosure, the questions are randomised and we cannot possibly cover everything that might come up in this session, but we're going to do our absolute best to get through as much as possible. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mary Jane, who is going to do the demonstrations for us today. Mary Jane.
Thanks, Kerry. It's lovely to see so many people here today, and I'm very excited to take you through this. So Kerry's outlined what we're going to cover, so let's get going. If you've joined the session on your laptop or PC and you have your connected Falkirk iPad to hand, please do feel free to follow along and play with all the features that we're going to show you today. Now, to give the session a bit of context, we're going to imagine that we are planning a lesson. Now, one of my specialisms is Spanish, so let's imagine that I want to start planning for a block of lessons on Spain and its culture. And I'm going to use notes to start my planning to gather all my ideas together in one place. So I'm going to start off by opening notes, and I have my notes app at the bottom bar. You'll see it there. It's the yellow top with the white lined paper underneath, and I'm just going to tap on it to open it up. And I'm going to get started now and create a new note. So over on the top right hand corner, you'll see there's a little square with a little pen facing into it. And if I tap on that just now, it's going to create a new note for me. And I'm going to start now by making a kind of rough mind map of the things I might want to cover in my topic. And to do this, I'm going to use the markup tools. And I access these again at the top bar, and it's the little pen with the inside the little circle. And when I tap on that, it brings up my toolbar at the bottom there. And this is going to allow me to draw directly onto my notes page. And I'm going to just start by jotting down some of the concepts that I want my class to learn about throughout this topic. So I've started with Spain in the centre, as you can already see. Now you can use your finger for this, or if you do have a stylus or an Apple Pencil, those will work with your iPad as well. If it's your connected Falkirk iPad, just note an Apple Pencil will be first generation that you'd be using there. So for this, I'm just going to jot some things down, thinking about the regions in Spain, thinking about the language, and this will start appearing on your screen, and thinking about customs, etc. I could go on and on. So I'm just getting my initial thoughts down. I'm starting to form the basis of that topic. And this isn't just for teachers, it's not just useful for teachers. You can see that this could be a really quick and easy way for pupils to document some things and show some of their thought processes as well. Now, I've created this simple mind map. Let's have a quick look at the markup tools on offer at the bottom. We've got a whole set here, which can help me to sketch, write, or even just make quick diagrams to get the information down in a really easy and visual way. So far, I've been using the pen tool, which is the one that's currently highlighted red. But if I tap on the next one, this is the highlighter, it's in green at the moment. You'll see I'm able to easily highlight some parts of my diagram there. There it is. Now, I can change the colour. If I tap on the colour options at the side, you see I've got a whole spectrum of colours there. But I can also change the thickness and the opacity. If I tap on the tool again, at the top it allows me to change the thickness, and the slider is for the opacity there as well. So I can really start to customise these tools to my own preferences for what I need. Next in line, we have the pencil tool. You can see there it's in black at the moment. It's got a slightly finer texture to it than the pen that I've already used. And next again, we also have an eraser, and that's going to allow me to rub out any mistakes or allow me to make any changes that I want to go ahead and do. The next one is the lasso tool, which is a bit like a copy and paste or even a clip tool, and it lets me move things around my page. So if I want to move something, I simply draw around it, and then I can move it to wherever I want. I'll let the screen catch up with me there. Oh, there it goes, and you can see I can pop it wherever I want on that page. I've just moved it slightly further down there. I also have the option of a ruler, and the ruler comes in really handy if I want to measure something or I want to draw a straight line. You'll be able to see that as I'm drawing, it measures as I go, and that can be really handy for math-based work or even some diagrams. So, those are our markup tools. Now, I've moved into the note full screen at the moment, but if I tap on the arrows that you can see in the top left-hand corner, that's going to take me back to the other notes that I have. Now, you may be sitting there thinking, I'm not the most skilled artist, and I'll admit that I'm definitely not the most skilled artist. So I have prepared a mind map that is slightly neater, and I'm going to tap on the arrows again to make it full screen there. You can see now how notes and markup could be a very easy and useful whiteboard without the need for using any additional app. I could share this screen if I'm standing in front of my class, or if it is online learning, I can share the screen like I'm doing with you now, and I've got that fast access to a digital whiteboard that saves my content automatically. So, drawing in notes has made a good start to my plan, and I've got this initial mind map here ready to go. The next thing I need to start thinking about is that first lesson. So I'm going to use one of my favourite tools here, and if you know me, I love a list. So it is the checklist option, which is the little tick in the top corner with the little circle around it. Now when I tap on it, you'll see that it gives me this empty circle on my page. And I can type things in here that I want in my lesson. So thinking about that first lesson, I really need to introduce. When I press enter, it's going to take me to a new line with a new checkbox. I would quite like a discussion opportunity in there, followed by some kind of activity for my pupils to complete. And then to finish off, I would like to add a plenary there. And once I've gone away and I've planned that section of the lesson, what I can do is I can tap on the circle and it ticks it off. This is a great tool for a wee to-do list. It helps me with my planning, it makes it more manageable, and it really just helps me stay on track to make sure I've covered everything I need to, keeping me organised and then managing my time, because I'm sure you all know we're all very, very busy people. So now I have my mind map and I now have that structure. It's time to start thinking about the content of my first lesson. And I've decided that my first lesson is going to be about the vineyards of Spain. And I actually have some pre-existing content that I think might be quite useful here. I used to live in Spain for a very brief period of time, and I like to talk about that to the pupils, tell them about my experiences, show them some photographs of where I used to work, where I used to live, etc. And I've also got some friends that still live there, and they continue to send me some photographs of the village and the different things that go on. So I save these and I use them as a cultural discussion point. So I'm going to now tap in the top again, the little camera icon, and it gives me a few options. You can see I can add some new content by taking a new photo or video, or I can choose from my camera roll. So when I tap on choose photo or video, this will take me to my photos, and if I then go to my albums, I have a pre-prepared album there and it's got all my Spain content in it together. So I'm going to tap on that. And the video I want to add is this one here. Now you can see it's selected because the blue tick has appeared in the little bottom corner of it. And if I tap on add, it's going to drop it into the note. Now it will always drop in at the bottom there. I actually have some other photos that I found, and I'm going to go back in by tapping on the camera again, choose photo or video. I'm going to go back to my albums there. There we go. Tap on Spain, and I'm going to use this photograph of the vineyards. It's a picture of the grapes up close, and I want to use that as a springboard for some deeper discussion of where the grapes came from and then what's going to happen to them next after they've been harvested. I can keep adding photographs and videos of things that I've captured that I think might be quite useful and just drop them into my notes there. Now, going back to that camera icon again, there's another feature here that's really useful, and that's the ability to scan documents. So, I'm going to tap on Scan Documents. And I know you're really desperate to see some more of my artwork today, so I'm going to use this prepared map of Spain that I did earlier. And it's just a really simple map of the different regions. And I think it's going to be really useful in my vineyards lesson. So I'm going to take a shot of that now. And I tap to take the image. And you can see there that it's scanned in. And it's letting me choose the aspects of the image that I want. So I'm just going to alter the corners a little bit to make that scan a little bit smaller, try and get it as straight as possible. And then I can tap on Keep Scan. It's ready for the next scan, so it would let me go and scan some other useful pictures or documents. But I'm just going to tap on Save, and if I scroll down to the bottom here past my current content, you will see in a second that it's dropped in at the bottom of my note there. Now, this is a scan, it's not a photograph. So if it had been a photo from a book or something like that, it'll erase a little bit of that shine that you might get when you take that photograph, and it softens the picture up a little bit for you in the process. Now let's say I want to add this scan, and I can tap on it. And in the top right hand corner, I'm going to tap on the icon that's the little rectangle with the arrow pointing up, the share button. And you'll see here that I have the option to then use the markup tools again. And this time, instead of showcasing some of the pen tools, I'm going to use the little plus sign. I'm going to tap on it, and it gives me the option to add some shapes because I want to highlight the regions of Spain that I'm going to talk about that have some of those vineyards. So I'm going to use the square at the moment. Now, the picture and video that I dropped in earlier came from a vineyard quite near Barcelona, so I'm going to pop a little square there. But I also know that La Rioja is quite a famous region for vineyards, so I'm going to pop another square there as well, adding the shapes. Now you can scan things into your notes and use markup tools on that image. It's great for labelling a diagram or adding detail to a map like we're just doing, or even highlighting parts of a passage that are important. Hopefully, as I've been doing this, you've got some idea of how you might use this for your own classroom. And now that I'm finished, I'm just going to tap Done in the top left-hand corner, and then Done again, and it drops right back into my note there. Now, you may teach alongside a stage partner or a colleague, or maybe you just want to share your note with someone who will find it useful. If I tap on the three dots at the top, the ellipsis, this gives me sharing options. I can send a copy of the note, which is handy, but it does mean that they get a copy of the note, so any further updates or amendments I make after it's been sent, they won't be able to see that. But if I tap share the note, it comes up, there you go. I can collaborate on the note in real time with a colleague as long as they've got access to a connected Falkirk managed Apple ID, which all teaching staff should. And as you can see here, there are so many different means that I can share this by, if it's Teams or G Suite Classroom, or even just an email. As long as they've got notes on their device, they'll have access to collaborate on that note. This means as well that they can add in their own content, and you can really start to build a great resource and plan together. Now, this isn't just beneficial for teachers and their planning. Our young people are also going to get managed ID, so they can be using notes to collaborate with each other too. So, that's notes. There's loads of great features there, and there's loads of possibilities, and it's really, really easy to use. The next thing we're going to look at today is customising your home screen on your device. You'll notice on my home screen that I've created some folders, and I've grouped apps together such as Microsoft apps, Apple, Google, etc. Now for me, the benefit of this as a teacher is just having quick access to those apps. It saves me such an amount of time when I'm in the classroom. You may wish to group your apps differently together. I know Kerry does hers by colour, but you may want to have photo apps together, drawing apps, or even by subject area. Everybody's device does tend to look very personal to suit their own needs, but that's the whole point. So let's create a folder. I'm going to create a folder with the two apps at the bottom. You can see Book Creator and Sketches School. So to do that, I'm going to tap on tap on Sketchy School, and I'm going to hold on it until it moves freely and drag it. I'm going to hover it over the other app. I think my screen is just catching up with me. There it is. And I'm then going to drop it in there, and you can see it creates a folder. I can rename the folder as well, so I'm going to do that just now. My keyboard pops up. I'm just going to call it something really easy called create, and I can even add a little emoji there, and you'll see the folder appears on my home screen. It tidies up my home screen, but also allows for a bit of organisation, so things are really easy and quick to find. So you can have a play around and have a go yourself and see what really works for you, and in terms of your app layout and how you want things to look on your device. Another thing to highlight on the home screen is that dock bar down the bottom. Now the apps on the left hand side of the little line you'll see are the apps that I want to be viewable at all times so that they're really quick and easy to access. So they tend to be, for me, my most commonly used apps, for example, email, Teams, Google Drive, Keynote, etc. And you'll see as I slide backwards and forwards through my home screens, the apps and the docs stay at the bottom the whole time, so I've always got access to them whenever I need them there. To add an app to the dock, I'm going to tap and hold on it again, and I'm going to drag it down and just drop it into my dock there. And it will stay there. And if I want to remove it, what I can do is just drag it back out and drop it onto the home screen again, or add it into a folder like we've just practiced. Now, all the apps on the right-hand side of the line, these 3 apps are the 3 most recently opened ones that I've used, and these will change depending on what I've been working in. So, for example, if I tap on the clock app just now, that will pop up, and then I press the home button to come back out of it. You'll see it now appears on the right-hand side of that dock bar. So again, it's just really personalising that home screen to how you want it to look and having what you want to access quickly at your fingertips. Now, the personalisation doesn't just end there. To add a bit more personalisation, if we look in the top right-hand corner where the battery indicator is, and if I start dragging my finger down slightly off screen, down the way, you'll see that my control centre appears. And here I have some further control over certain things. In the first square, it's all connectivity based. The top left, I've got aeroplane mode. The top right is the ability to turn AirDrop on and off and change the receiving settings. So you can have receiving from everyone, contacts only, or receiving totally off. The bottom left, you've got your Wi-Fi, and on the bottom right, you've got Bluetooth. Underneath that, you'll notice that there is the padlock in red. That is the rotation lock. It's red because mine is switched on, which means that if I turn my iPad portrait to landscape or vice versa, it's not going to rotate, which is really handy if you are teaching a class. I'll leave it on just now because I do prefer to have my lock on. Next to that, you'll see something that's really handy for teachers, and it's a crescent moon shape, and that's your do not disturb. So if you turn this on your device, you're not going to have any alerts to any notifications, and you can actually set it to come on and off at scheduled times. I have mine on just now because I don't want notifications popping up when I'm sharing my screen. It's really handy if you are teaching or even in a meeting. The 2 bars here next to the crescent moon, you can see the sunshine is to increase and decrease your screen brightness. And next to that, you can see the headphones. That is your control for volume, which is in addition to the physical buttons that you have on the side of your device to control your volume. Now, perhaps the most important icons you can see here are the icons at the very bottom. This is the part of the control centre that can be completely customised. Now, you might see some icons here that you don't have. So let's look at how we can get these icons into our control centre. I'm going to tap on my screen to take me back to my home screen. And then I'm going to tap on the settings cog, which is the grey icon. At the left hand side, in a second, there we go, you'll see it's highlighted General, and directly under General you have Control Centre. If I tap on that, the right hand side gives me all the options that I need. It gives me lists of things that you can have in your Control Centre. So I currently only have 3 at the moment, so I'm going to add in some more. If I scroll down and tap on some of the plus icons, it's going to add them into my control centre. So I'm going to think of some of the really useful tools that I might need in my classroom. So for example, having the camera is really useful, and having a timer I find really useful for timing tasks, etc. And I might also want an alarm, which is already in there. But it can be really personalised to whatever you need for your lessons. I'm going to press on the home button and take me back to the home screen. And if I pull down again, from the top right under the battery indicator, you can see I added camera, I added timer, and they are now appearing in that control panel. Now let's talk about the screen recording option, which is the one that you can see there, and it's one that is really, really useful for teachers. If I wasn't in this meeting, I would be able to turn it on, but because I'm currently sharing my device, you will see that it's flashing red at the moment, meaning that it is recording my screen. And it gives you the option to record your screen with or without the microphone enabled. And this is really useful because I can talk over and mark up a document, a photo, a diagram with explanations for my pupils, or indeed I could just use some of those markup tools and make a screen recording of me working through a problem, really anything. And it will literally record everything I've got going on at my screen at that time. It's a great way to share task instructions or go over a concept with a pupil and really provide in-depth explanations with your class. And it can be really easily shared. Now I'm going to use a screen recording that I did earlier, so I'm going to come out of that. The screen is taking a little bit of a second to catch up with me, so what I am going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. And I'm going to come back into that. Kerry, while I'm coming back into this, do you have any advice or any examples of how you've used screen record or even notes that we've covered so far with classes you've had?
Yeah, so the screen record's actually a really good one for, we've used it a lot. A lot of people have been getting in touch with the Connected Falkirk Twitter, asking how to do certain things. It's a really easy way to exemplify how to do something. So I've seen myself doing a wee quick screen record, just showing people like where to go, talking over what I'm tapping and stuff, and then sending it on, and that's been really, really helpful. But in a sort of classroom context as well, a lot of people are starting to use screen record for vocal feedback. Great question there from Laura, which we'll just deal with just now while Andy's getting Mary Jane's iPad sorted back on the meeting. Screen record does record sound. Now the microphone is automatically off, so all you need to do is a long press on that screen record button, the one that you can see just now on the screen that is red, and it will bring up further options, and one of those options will be the microphone, and you can either switch it on or switch it off, and it's a good idea just to check that. It definitely wouldn't be the first time that I've recorded a 3-4 minute video of feedback and then realised that I didn't have.
Yeah, been there.
I know. Another way as well, I know that, Nicola's announcement today suggests that remote learning is going to be, not fashionable quite soon with regards to kids returning to school. But in this time of remote learning, it's a really good way to just show a task. So if you want to explain through a task and you have the slide with what you want the kids to do, a wee quick screen recording describing exactly what it is that you want to do, putting that on your Google Classroom or on your Microsoft Teams just lets you, give that access to the kids so they can listen to it over and over again. And I see we're back, so I'll stop gabbing on and let you get back to it, Mary Jane.
Great, thanks for that, Kerry. That's really great. So I'll go back into my photos now that I'm back up and running here and show you how you can share that screen record. So this is a screen record that I did a little earlier today. And if I tap on the share icon, which is the little box with the arrow facing out, it gives me different ways that I'm able to share that with my pupils. So if I'm in class with them, I can simply airdrop that straight to the pupils without needing any Wi-Fi at all. Or if it is at a distance, I can share it through a virtual learning environment, etc. So a screen record is a super quick and super simple way of sharing detailed information with both audio and visual. And again, as Kerry said, making sure you've got that audio on before you start your big explanations, etc. So if I come out of this, we're going to look at something similar to screen record, and that's doing a screenshot. Screenshots are great because they allow you to quickly capture information and then enhance it. I'm going to use Safari for some further research about vineyards, and I've already found a site here, which I will load up for you. And I think that this information is going to be really useful to me in my planning. So I'm going to take a screenshot by using two physical buttons on my device. The on-off button, which is at the top, and the home button at the bottom of the device. So I'll take that now. And you'll see that the screenshot has been added to my device and it's sitting in the bottom left-hand corner. Now, if I'm quick enough, I can tap on it from here. I'm never usually quick enough. I tend to talk over it. So if that happens to you, you can then get access to that screenshot from going back to your home page, into your photos tile there, come out of that screen record, and you can see that it's appeared at the very bottom of my photos. I'm going to tap on it there. Now again, through the edit at the top and the ellipsis, I have some of those markup options again, so I can enhance this photo. I could add in some extra detail or even just highlight some parts so that the pupil knows that that is what I want them to specifically look at. And then I can save that by tapping done again, and I can go over back to my notes and pop it in. So opening up my notes app again, going to the bottom where I want to add my content, choosing my photo, popping over to my albums. Again, you can see it's selected and then just adding it in. And again, it will drop right at the bottom there. Now, once this photo has been added to my notes, I could add further information if I wanted to using the different drawing tools that are available in Notes as well. Again, it's just different ways for me to be able to present the information to the learners, either in front of the class or virtually. I'm going to go back to my home screen now because it's time for us to talk about some shortcuts. And one big help in particular might be Siri. Now, Siri won't activate while I'm screen sharing, but let's talk about the two different ways that you can access it. If you have Siri enabled through your settings, you can say, "Hey Siri," or another way is to hold down the home button on the front of your device. And from this short video here, you can see that the little Siri bubble will pop up in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And I can ask Siri some questions to maybe help with a little bit of research or even some more information for planning that lesson. I can even ask Siri to remind me to do certain things before my lesson. So let's imagine here that I've utilised the power of Siri to remind me to check the weather tomorrow. And I want to check the weather in Spain so that we can have a class discussion about how the weather may impact the vineyards. So when I ask Siri the question, Siri will set my reminder and it will pop up in the bottom right hand corner of my screen like you can see here. Now, I wish that when I'd done this I had been a little bit more specific and asked Siri to remind me at a particular time. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our home screen and we're going to pop over to the Reminders app and we're going to look for the white tile and it's got coloured bullet points on it. Mine is on the front of my home screen there. And we're going to edit that reminder. So now that I've opened it, you can see the reminder is sitting there. Check the weather in Spain. I'm sure it would be better than the weather we've been having in the last week or so anyway here. If I tap on the reminder, a little eye will pop up at the right hand side, and if I tap on that, that gives me further options to edit this reminder. I can set it to remind me at a specific time, date, or even a location. So for example, I'm going to set my location, I'm going to toggle it on, and I'm going to set it for when I arrive at work tomorrow. So when I drive there and I get there, it's going to remind me that I need to check the weather. I'm going to press done. So we can see here how Siri and Reminders, either individually or as a pair, are great features to help keep me organised day to day, keep track of my thoughts, and our never-ending, very, very long to-do lists. Again, coming back to our home screen there, we are going to now explore Safari. Safari is Apple's web browser and it's got some fantastic tools in there that can really support learning in the classroom. So let's go back to Safari and see what it can do. To locate it, it is the white tile, it's got a blue dial on it, and I'm going to open it up. And you will see it's the web page that I used earlier on to help with some of my planning on those vineyards in Spain. Now, you'll notice it's super busy. Some of the photographs are moving, some websites have flashing adverts, loads and loads of distractions, and I really want my pupils to stay focused so that they can get the information they need to help them with their topic. So what I can do here is I can turn on Reader View. So the two A's at the top next to the search bar give me the option of Show Reader View. So if I tap on that, what it does is it strips out all the information and the stuff that I don't need, and it keeps the main information from that website for my class to read. Now, top tip here, you can actually set Reader View to be on automatically for Safari via your settings cog. Another great feature to help with your eyes when you're reading text on your screen is to make the text bigger, and if I tap on those two A's again, the slightly larger A that appears will allow me to increase my text size there, and the smaller one will allow me to decrease it as well. If I need to, I can change the font. This is really great for accessibility as certain fonts may be easier for certain people to read, and I struggle sometimes reading with certain fonts, so that's a really handy tool to have. Another thing that I struggle with from wearing glasses is reading screens. So having the background colour change feature is a lifesaver. Maybe I should say it's an eye saver. So if I tap on the colours, you can see that the background changes and you can choose which one helps make your reading easier. So again, just another super accessibility feature here. Now, while I'm still using Safari at the moment, I want to do a bit more research for my planning and I want to find some images. So I've already searched for vineyards in Spain here. Now, when we're searching images, you'll be aware that we need to be careful with copyright, and we need to discuss that with pupils. So something which is really useful to know, and it's a feature in Google, is after you've searched in images, under the search bar, there are some further options. And if I tap on the word tools, and then look at the usage right drop down and select Creative Commons, it gives me photos that I have permission to then use further, for example, in notes or presentations, and you're allowed to use these to a certain extent. Now, I do want to use some of these images, I think they're quite good, but I don't want to flick back and forward between Safari and my notes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use split screen. To do this, I'm going to bring up my dock by sliding my finger upwards very gently from the bottom of the screen, and you can see it reveals my dock bar again. Now I'm going to choose notes by tapping and holding on it, and I'm going to drag it to the side of the screen. There we go. And I'm just going to let it go there. And you'll see that it takes up the right hand side of my screen. Now, because I have access to both Safari and my photos, and I've got my planning note, if I need to see more of one screen than the other, the bar in the middle will let me adjust it ever so slightly. So I'll make my notes slightly bigger there. You can see I have more access to my notes. I'm just going to move it back so I can see the photos a little bit better on the left hand side. Now I want to use some of these photos in Safari and Notes. So I'm going to move to the bottom of my note there because it has jumped back up, and I'm going to choose one of these Creative Commons pictures, and I'm going to just tap and hold on it, and I'm simply going to drag it over, and you can see it there, and drop it in at the bottom of my note. This is a really quick and easy way to add photos without having to save them first, go into your note, and then add them from your photos later. Split screen is also then really useful when I want to start planning out my resources. I'm going to keep my notes open now on that right hand side, but I want to start making my presentation. So I'm going to very gently again swipe up from my dock, and I'm going to use Keynote this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold and drag Keynote over, and I'm just going to drop it on the top of Safari there, and you can see that it takes over. And what that will now allow me to do is open up a presentation. So I've got one that says Vineyards in Spain prepared already. So I'm going to move and change onto that bottom slide. It's a blank slide for me to start my presentation. I'm going to hold and drag that photo from Notes over into Keynote there and drop it in. Now this is going to now let me resize that photo and move it around my presentation slide there. This is great because I can still look at my planning notes. I don't need to flip between apps, and it saves me that little bit of time. So that's split screen, and lots of people do say it is a game changer. It's something that I really find beneficial when I'm doing presentations and plans. Coming back to my home screen again, next up is voice memos. This is another simple way to save some time in your classroom. Voice memos is the black app tile, and it has a red and white sound wave on it. So I'm going to open it now. Now I use this a lot, so you can see that down the left hand side I've got all my recordings saved there. Now again, because I am sharing my screen live with you now, it won't record anything I'm saying at the moment, but you will notice the big red record button at the bottom. So if I tap that, it will start the recording. Now earlier, I made a little recording to model some spoken Spanish for pupils in my class to practice and pose them some questions that I wanted them to answer. And that's the one that you can see on the top there of my recordings. Once you have recorded, Voice Memos lets me play back, it lets me edit, and it even lets me replace parts of the recording if I'm not happy with it. Then once I save it, it auto saves as the name auto saves as your current location. So I can change that. So if I tap on the title there, my keyboard will pop up and I'm simply just going to call it Spain at the moment. There we go, I've changed it. Again, like many features and core apps on your device, you can share this with the share icon. Again, if I tap on that, AirDrop comes up as an option, or even through a virtual learning environment. Email as well to a colleague. All those are available options. If I need it for later, I could scroll down and save to my files as well. What I do want to do now though is I want to use it with my current planning, so I'm simply going to tap on copy and I'm going to go back over into my notes here and open up. I'm going to go down to the bottom, tap, and I'm going to paste it in there for later. Again, voice memo can be anything related to your lesson, or if it's been a meeting, it could be notes from that meeting, just an idea you've had, or even feedback for a pupil that you just want to really keep all in one place. So that's some of the many tools so far that can be used to support your planning and teaching of a lesson. There are many other tools and features available on your device. So let's have a quick look at another one, which is the clock that we opened earlier. Having a visual timer is something that will be handy to many teachers. I know it's something that I definitely use a lot. So if I have a look at the timer option there, it gives me a visual countdown on the screen. I could ask Siri to do this for me if I wanted to save a little bit of time. It gives pupils an indication of how long they've got left, which helps them manage their own time. And because they can see the visual timer, it's also quite beneficial for pupils who may have ASN and they need to know exactly what's coming next. I'm going to tap done to stop the timer. And let's jump over and have a little look at the world clock at the left there. Now it shows you the map here, and I can search for different locations. And if you haven't guessed by now, I'm a big fan of Spain and we'll stay very, very on theme here. And I'm going to search for Barcelona, and Barcelona comes up and it adds it in there at the bottom. It gives me current times, it allows me to see time differences, which can be a great discussion point with pupils, and all your chosen world clocks will appear along the bottom there. Now the final thing I want to show you today is maps. So I'm going to open maps, it's on my home screen. And again, staying very on theme, I'm going to type in Barcelona. There we go. Now, if I tap on flyover, it's going to give me an augmented reality view. Now, because I'm sharing my screen at the moment, it does take a little minute to load. But once it does load, what it will allow me to do is really explore and move around. I'll tilt it up and it will load in the background there. So it's a great app to use for having discussions about scale, size, buildings and various other discussions. Now I can see it has kicked me out, so what I am going to do is come back in. Within that app you can use the satellite view as well, so you can zoom in and out, view the map, look at the street names, the different areas, and use it to discuss the different places, maybe places that they haven't ever been before. I'm just going to pop my screen back up for you. There you go. Apologies for that. And maps should appear there. Now you can use maps. It should load in the background, hopefully. Got it on my device. It doesn't seem to be coming over on the screen, but I will keep trying. I will tell you a little bit more about it. Hopefully it will pop up as I'm speaking, but you can use maps, the augmented reality view, the 3D view, with loads of major places and cities. Not all places are available, but the main ones are. And it's a really, really lovely way for pupils to explore, have those discussions, and really make some comparisons to places that they live in as well. Here it's coming back up now for you. Now, I really hope that that's been useful for you so far, and you've been able to see how you can use some of these features to support your learning and teaching. I've really enjoyed walking you through it today. I'm going to hand you back over to Kerry now, and Kerry's going to finish off today's session with you. Kerry.
Thanks, Mary Jane. So I know that is a lot to digest, and hopefully there have been some useful things in there for you, both skills-wise and thinking more broadly about the role of the iPad in the classroom. We now challenge you to go to the Apple Teacher Learning Centre and get that badge. If Andy could make Mary Jane the presenter again, just so we can get these final slides up, that would be really helpful. We would love you to log on to the Apple Teacher Learning Centre and get the badge. Now, you might want to jump on and do this now while it is fresh in your mind. Or you might need a wee while to process that information. It was an awful lot. Do have a look through the resources for this badge on the Learning Centre. If you feel like you need to revisit anything, or if there's any bits that you just want to go into more detail about. And of course, we'll be putting this recording up tomorrow probably on the YouTube channel, so you can come back and revise before you sit your high pressure 5-question exam. But yeah, we wish you the absolute best of luck. Just a reminder that how you're going to get there is appleteacher.apple.com. From the home screen, you're going to click on or tap on Earn Badges for iPads. Tap on iPad, because that's the badge we've covered today. Scroll down until you find the option there to take the quiz. So before we go, your feedback is very, very important to us. This is the first session of the RTC. We would love to hear from you about what you want to know, what further sessions you would be interested in, what things would be helpful to you. Andy's going to pop the link to the feedback form into the chat there, and we would really, really appreciate it if you could take just a couple of minutes to complete that. But that's all for today. We want to thank you all for giving up your time to join us. I know that you're extremely busy, and to ask for an hour is extremely extravagant of us, and we do really, really appreciate it. A huge thank you to Mary Jane for facilitating for us today and dealing with a couple of those technical issues like an absolute champ. And indeed to Matt Pullen from the South Wales RTC, who inspired this session. We'd love to keep the conversation going. If you are a Twitter user, we'd love to hear how you get on with your first badge. You can join the wider conversation with Apple Teacher using the hashtag AppleTeacher. You can find out more about RTCs around the UK and Ireland and what they're doing by using the hashtag AppleRTC. A lot of RTCs make their courses available to all and not just to people within their region. So it's worth checking out if you've got more things that you would like to know about. There are plenty of courses being offered out there by other people with probably nicer accents than Mary Jane and I. And of course, you can tag us or mention us any tweets using @FalkirkRTC. Thank you all very much. Stay safe. I was going to say stay warm, but the snow seems to have melted. But hopefully you have a restful evening after your in-service day, which I'm sure has been very, very busy. Thank you so much for joining us today. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.